Hello again, and welcome to episode 61 of the Twinsies podcast. My name is Lucas Cook.
And I'm Dan Blewett.
We have producer McLean Conklin over.
McLean.
Yes, wave to the people.
Good job, good job.
So, Dan, you just got back from a trip.
I did.
Where did you go?
I took a train to Salt Lake City for no reason other than I had a free train trip on points, so that was really the trip. There was nothing really in Salt Lake City, but it was a really pretty town. Have you been there?
I have been to Salt Lake City. Actually, you know what? No, I'm thinking of Colorado Springs. I have not been to Salt Lake City.
It's just like in a little valley between like two big chunks of mountain, and everyone's just chilling down there.
So, where is it in relation to Denver?
Well, by train, it's 11 hours west.
So it's like on the far west side of
Yeah,
Utah.
it's like between wastelands. Like there's a lot of wasteland
Yeah,
out there. It's like just like salt flats or something, but it's
Mad Max territory.
It's out there. But I mean, that of course that train ride is really beautiful. That's why I wanted to take it because otherwise I would have just gone to Denver. But
it's
I wanted to
beautiful
go
starting
through-
when? Like, what point are you like, oh, okay, this is starting to get scenic?
it was early when we were pulling into Denver, so I was like just waking up. So I probably could have looked out the window and seen something, like mountain range wise. But then once you leave Denver, you just go right through the Rockies. So
Yeah.
for the next
But like,
11 hours, like all day, you're just in these. You're just staring up huge rock faces as it's just like cut into
Yeah.
the mountain. It's pretty cool.
but like leading up to that, like as you get through Illinois and
All
Nebraska,
wasteland.
Yeah.
All wasteland.
so
Nothing,
you
nothing to
just
look
had
at.
your nose in a book probably or something.
Yeah, just working and doing whatever. But yeah, it was cool. I just wanted to do that little trip through the Rockies. That was kind of my main thing.
So once you got to Salt Lake, how were you there for like an?
Just one day.
Okay.
Yeah, we hiked in the morning, wandered around the city all day, and then it gets. What's up with winter? Why does it get dark so early? It gets dark at like 4:30. That's stupid.
Yeah, yeah.
How's that a positive benefit?
I was telling someone that
mad.
the other day that like I never get used to that. The other day I was leaving Warbird at like 5, and this was a couple weeks ago, and like the sun was setting, and I was like, I still have half my day left. This is
This is
ridiculous.
so stupid. Yeah,
But that's life, I guess.
I can't be on board with that. But yeah, I mean the little sleeper car is cool. I have to do another train trip to go home for Thanksgiving. I don't have to. I chose to, but I'm doing that one in a chair.
A train's like your new
I'm
thing?
on coach. No, it was just a combination of having to go to Chicago anyway and fly home and like double the expense. It was like cheaper, and I'm like, I'll just work on my laptop till 2 a.m, sleep until 7, and then work on my laptop until I get in. I just felt like it was gonna be like a kind of crappy travel day anyway, and I figured I'd just get a lot done if I
Plus, I would
took
say
the
that
train.
when you take into account like the pain in the butt that flying is, like getting to the airport early, checking in, like going through security, all that stuff, and then the fact like planes are always cramped, it's like it's not as easy to get stuff done. The benefits of a train become, or they start to get pretty close in terms of. I mean, obviously it's longer, but you said you're traveling coach, but even a coach in a train is way better than like coach in an airplane.
Comfort wise, yeah, it gets tough. My handwriting is funny. As I look back, I was doing a lot of like random stuff, and typing can be very. You're like,
It's like
trying to peck at it.
trying to do your homework in the back of the bus before school, and you're like, "Ooh."
Yeah, it's not easy. So there's some of that, but it just depends. I don't know.
So wait, in total, from leaving Bloomington to arrival in Salt Lake was how many hours?
I think it's 31.
What will the trip home be?
I think it. Well, I gotta go to Chicago, then I have like a couple hour layover, and then it's like I think 18 Chicago to DC.
You got to speed up them trains.
6 p.m. to I think I get in at 1 p.m. the next day.
We need
So-
those hover trains, like in Japan.
Yeah,
Maglevs, is that what they're called?
the trains are garbage. They're very not great.
But to be fair, I'm sure they have there's probably no incentive to like upgrade the railroad infrastructure. You know what I mean?
No, they can't, and they don't own it. That's why they're always late. There's always delays. The train is actually on time, which was surprising, but we got delayed about an hour, and then we caught up somehow. So
Oh, I don't know if I said this, but when I was going out to California, we I'm sure there's some aviation people who are going to be like, blah, 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 but we were sitting on the tarmac for an hour, so we were an hour delayed.
that's the worst.
When we arrived, we were only 15 minutes late, like from after our like arrival time, because the guy he's like, well, I'm gonna get permission from air traffic control to go a little faster, and I was like, why don't you just go fast all the time? There's nothing out here in the air.
Yeah, I think I knew the answer to why they don't do that at some
I mean,
point.
I'm
but
sure there's a myriad of reasons, but It's
a myriad reasons.
I
or
was
a
like, oh
myriad
god,
of
here we go,
reasons?
Jesus Christ. But yeah, I think like I've never done a long train trip like you have, but I don't hate the idea. I just like am not a huge be sit and cramped for an extended period of time, or know that I can't like get up and leave. Like that's even a 5-hour plane trip. I'm like, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
So
It's not as cramped. I don't know how you would handle it because you're a lot bigger than I am, and like the beds, I couldn't completely stretch out in the up the top bunk. So I mean, you have to sleep on your side. I don't know.
kind of like or like what's that pose called? Like on your sleeping baby or something.
It's child pose, but
yeah, child's pose is on your knees, but.
yeah.
So you couldn't even go complete like stretch. So the bed wasn't 6 feet long.
It was not quite, or maybe it was. But if like your toes are out like flippers, that make flipper. What's my flipper length? My flipper length was like 6'2".
I love
I don't know.
sleeping flipper length.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but it was fine. It was fine. But you're a lot bigger. The chairs still wouldn't bother you, like in the little cabin.
Did you?
They're really wide. They're like first class seats.
Did you interact with any other human beings?
Yeah, you have to because you have dinner with. So unless you have 4 people, because the tables fit 4 in the dining car. So unless you have 4, you have to sit with whoever else is there. And you know, you like the first couple we sat with, they were from Peoria, and it's like a retired teacher, or she's I think still teaching, and her retired husband who's in banking. And they were super nice. So we just talked to them the whole time. And then the next, I think we were solo for breakfast, and then we had 2 more meals. Lunch, we sat with this couple, and they just didn't seem super pleasant, and we weren't super interested in talking to them. So it was kind of like whatever.
Jerks.
Well, and so our waitress, who like the wait staff and like the attendants and all the people like on the whole were like really nice and they were good, but the waitress was like the classic kind of waitress who was. She'll be like real short with you, and if you like screw things up, because in the train they have like basically, so when you're in a sleeper car, all your meals are paid for, which is sweet. So I got 4 meals for free. I got like steak for 2 dinners, and it was like pretty solid. But you get this form, they give it to you. You write your car number, your room number, and you sign your name. And then you give it back to them, and they fill out your order. Because it's Scantron, they said. So if you screw it up, like they gotta throw the paper away. It's gotta be like perfect. So the guy like I don't know if he picked it up and like filled it out, and then she's like was cold about it, and he was just like, and then what was it? I don't know. So then that was one night, and then the next day with this couple that didn't seem super pleasant, she like just was short with him, and I don't know whatever it was, and then she was like 4 feet away, and he's like, "Well, she's not very pleasant, is she?" Like right to his wife, I'm like, "What's wrong with you?
Okay,
like, that's
guy.
not the way to That's just not
Win
very
her
nice.
over.
And B, no, that's not making anyone's lunch better.
That's my favorite.
Because she was really nice to us, because we were really nice to her. Like it was fine. I mean, she was our bud, but I don't know. That was the vibe we got from them. But overall, it was all right. There was some. Pulling into Omaha, which was at like 11 p.m. the first night, there was a poor, I guess, college girl. I went out to the observation car to like work on my laptop around like between like 9 and 11 p.m. And there was just like this poor, like kind of cute college girl sitting there, and then she was like talking to like a group of guys, and they were all just like being nice, and this older, probably like 50-year-old, like little rougher guy sits in her booth like, "Hey, can I sit here?" And she's like, "Yeah." And then he just like wore her out for like the next hour. And it was just clear, like I wanted to like draw on a piece of paper and like, do you need me to come act as your boyfriend? Like,
Blink 3 times.
Are you in trouble? She was clearly in trouble. And then she eventually went over and sat with those guys afterwards.
That stinks because you're like trapped.
Yeah, and I was like, man, because all of us were looking at her like the same way. Like the 3 guys were like probably like 30-year-old professionals, like they were just being real nice to her, like they were just chatting, having a good conversation, and it was clear like all the eyes were like, "What? Do you, like, can
What
we
are you
help
gonna do?
you? Like,
What
what's
can we
wrong?
do?"
Like, we know this is not good." And, like the guy was just awful. And when we did stop at Omaha, he got off. I went down to use the restroom, and I saw him out the window of the train, out there having a smoke and just like getting in a verbal altercation with someone, like the conductor. It's just like, this guy's the worst. Poor girl.
Interesting.
But life lessons. I guess
Life lessons.
She's learned to deal with it probably.
Yeah. So now you're back, and now we're back to Warbird things. And
Back to
our
Warbird things.
next item on our agenda is our volleyball players are starting it up again. So club volleyball, 'tis the season for club volleyball. I think state wrapped up this last weekend, which we didn't have anybody in town participating in that tournament. But with that, tryouts were also this weekend, and now we go to train at the local club volleyball facility. 100 girls. They train 3 days a week. We go twice a month. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how the challenges that pose. Well, and also what we do with our volleyball players there at the facility, where equipment and time and just like instructor to trainee like a ratio is a little weird versus when we're here at Warbird Academy and we have all the equipment we want. The numbers are lower, and kind of talk about those differences. So, first of all, what do we do at Warbird or at Illini Elite?
Well, we have a huge flock of girls that we train, 100 of them for an hour, about an hour. And we break them into 10 chunks. So it's about 10 groups of 10. And they go through stations. And in each group of 10, they have exercise A and exercise B. And they'll do, 5 of them will do exercise A, while the other 5 are doing exercise B. And then they'll flip-flop. And they'll kind of go through that format with like 4 to 6 rotations. And then...
Yep.
And then they'll switch stations every 6 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how much time, but yeah, typically it's like 7 minutes, I think.
Yeah, so that's been our format for we're ending our 5th year of this or fifth probably, right?
Oh yeah, 4th or 5th. I don't even know.
Probably 5th.
Okay.
More than 3.
But yeah, it's we would love to like squat with them and do RDLs and all this great stuff, but the reality is logistically with that many people, even if you had the equipment, so even if they had 20 squat racks and 40 barbells, there's no way that you could do it. The numbers are too high. So we kind of have to adjust our training priority, which regardless of whether someone's training with us at Warbird Academy or we're going remotely and training at a satellite facility, the number one goal is always injury prevention. So how can we strengthen muscles that protect joints? Now, that's great to do here at Warbird Academy where we have all the equipment that we whatever want, but like they have, dumbbells to single dumbbells, maybe I think the heaviest one they have is 70.
Yeah.
And then like maybe 8 barbells, not even all of them are 45-pound barbells. Bands, they have sliders, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and like some stability balls. But we're not going to be doing any heavy loading. And a lot of our girls that train here, when they're training at Elite, it's like chump change. Like when you're doing a 185-pound back squat, 60-pound goblet squats, like whatever. But that's why we typically do higher volume. And like the time dictates that too, where especially like over the last couple of years, when we first started out, it was like, all right, you're going to do 3 sets of 12 on goblet squat. But more than anything, it's dictated by time. So it's just like squat until the station ends, which is good. But I know when we want to really increase performance or like really take girls to the next level, we try to encourage them to come in here with us just because we have, like I said, the equipment and then more like the dedicated one-on-one time where when you have 100 girls, what you can't, and you only have 3 instructors that go out there, you can't spend too much one-on-one time with everybody because then you see 8 girls over the course of the hour when there's 100 there. So when they come here with us, our training changes. And I think we've referenced this before in a podcast, but one of the things I try to explain to our volleyball players a lot, because like everybody wants to increase their vertical jump. I want to jump higher. I want to move quicker laterally or whatever it is. So we get, I don't know if I would say requests, but we get like, oh, are we going to do plyometrics? Are we going to do jumping stuff? Are we going to do foot speed stuff? And it's like, no, not really.
I like the voices you're making. I want to increase my vertical jump. No.
Oh, it's just like
that was a trainer voice. No.
Even
Is that me?
that was me being bashful. Sorry, no. But they practice for 12 hours a week, I think. So they have 3.5 to 4 hour practices, and that's not even counting the stuff they do on the weekends. And then we get them, if we're lucky, we get them for 2 hours a week. We get them on Monday, Wednesday for an hour. And so it's like, it would be really stupid, in my opinion, on our part, to do a bunch of jumping stuff when they're going to do 12 hours of jumping throughout their week. Instead, we take time when they actually do come into Warbird Academy to do heavy stuff. To squat them, RDL them, barbell hip thrust them, sled them.
Did y'all verbs? You're verbing them now? Or?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, inverted row them, chin up
Inverted
them.
row 'em, yep.
Chin up them.
Plank them.
Plank them. Just because if we can get in 2 hours, we can get them as strong as possible in those 2 hours a week. Then I know you mentioned this before, I think on a podcast, but then they have 12 hours a week to learn how to use that strength at their practice. So that has worked, I think, pretty well for us. And it's not to say that like the stuff that we do at Elite is good, and we get to do a lot of banded stuff, which I think is great for higher volumes, and higher volumes is great for muscular endurance, and muscular endurance is great for preventing injuries. But like the real performance side of it, I think more of that stuff has to be done here.
Yeah. Like how many people would die if we gave them all a barbell?
Oh, over there?
On their back, yeah.
A lot.
We had 100 barbells.
This is an interesting question because it's been interesting at my time at Heartland, kind of seeing where the bar is, and pun intended, where the bar is in terms of like squat form. And I would say, let's say you were to put 95 pounds on a bar, or 105 or 115 on a bar, and we had all those girls squat it. I'm gonna say probably 35%, maybe 40% could do like a really clean back squat. You think that's probably accurate?
The collegiate level?
No, at Elite, like of that sample of girls.
Without coaching, or like I guess it's hard to
minimal coaching. I would just like where do you think the bar is in terms of
probably lower, probably 20%.
Really? Yeah. My point is like not very many.
Yeah.
Like in the amount of time it takes, I think, to get someone into a really really good back squat is a long time, and you have to like progress. It can't be like, okay, we learned how to do a goblet squat, let's go to a back squat. It has to be a goblet to a front to a box, and then maybe a back squat. But we see that all the time here, and even like front squat, kids hate doing front squats. And
you're getting kind of gassy.
Yeah, I'm getting a little gassy.
Maybe it's because you ate tuna fish 30
I've
minutes
had
ago.
I've had a lot of weird fluids and food. Hey, I gotta do.
No one has to do tuna for breakfast.
That's all I had here. But what the heck was I saying? Oh yeah, people don't like doing front squats, but front squats are like amazing.
They're good.
But the bar hurts my shoulders.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, well, it's funny. We're not gonna mention the college, but I sent you that video of a
prestigious.
Top 25 D1 program. They have a video online of their, I think it was their softball team in the weight room, and they were just running around, like videoing everyone. Here's like our workout, and it was really bad. Like the form of almost every player was poor. It's like, you shouldn't have chose any of these exercises or any of these kids doing these exercises. They're all doing with awful form, and we're the first people to admit that. Like we work with young athletes, it's a learning process. If you walk in our gym at any given moment, you're not going to see everyone doing everything flawlessly because they just can't. It's just like anything else. They're just developing their skills in the weight room like they are anything else. They get better as they go. But this is like Division I athletes, getting like a top 25 program, top 50 program, and either they're not being coached well or the coaches don't know. There's just which one is it? Just pick. It's not a good answer regardless, but my point is not to pick on them, but my point is that even at high levels like Division I, unless they're coached well, they don't do it well. I mean, for the most part. I mean, the better the athlete, the more natural it'll come, but it's still not easy in a group to get everyone to do everything the way you want it as a coach.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And I would say, I was thinking about that video the other day, and a lot of things spring to my mind, but there's definitely a difference in the demographic that we train, which is like you said, 10 to...
They range from snot-nosed to, seasoned athletes.
But a lot of them are, but most of them are just starting their like strength training journey. So they're just like starting to learn it and figure it out. Whereas like you said, by the time you're a D1 athlete, you would think that they have logged or should have logged enough hours in the gym to be competent at, because like the lifts they were doing were not like crazy, like super duper hard. But then my next point is, I don't know, like a lesser exercise. I don't know how you would call it, but like a simpler exercise done really well is going to be better than the exercises they were doing with the form they were doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I love squats. I can't remember all the ones they were doing. They were doing like my favorite. And we talked about this. They were doing weighted chin ups with assistance.
Yeah.
which
It
doesn't
was
make any
just
sense.
ridiculous. It's the stupidest thing. Yeah, they had a girl doing a chin up with a weighted vest on, and then either a coach or another player helping to push their torso up to the bar. It's like, take the weight off. How
Yeah.
does that how does that make sense?
And I
Yeah,
can't remember all
it
the
was
exercises they were doing,
silly.
but yeah, it was strange. And then part of me was like, oh well, I bet what's happening is you have, especially at a program that big, you have a head guy or girl who's probably writing the program and then being like, okay, proctor or administer this program, and then you probably
Yeah.
have assistants who are like either in over their head or like they don't know how to teach it or whatever. But yeah, and again, like you said, it was one video, and you're never gonna like go to any strength program in the country and like video their workout and have every single athlete executing flawless lifts. But
when they're pretty much all doing them bad,
Yeah.
that's another thing.
well,
Like,
and the other
it's
thing is like, let's say that's the case. If I was a strength guy, I'd be like, let's not put that video.
let's go ahead and delete that. Yeah, I don't know. Checks and balances were missed
Yeah, yeah.
In
The review
that-
process was
in that one. Which we talked about that before with podcasts, and who was I talking? I was talking to Mr. Weber the other day about podcasts and just about how some of these people have just the worst audio voice, and no one
Oh, yeah.
stops them. Like, I just think there's a baffling, probably in any walk of life. I'm sure the folks who work in corporate America can attest to this, but there's just like boards of people and checks and balances that just do nothing. It seems like for
yeah.
all
What's the
sorts
point of
like,
bureaucracy
product review.
if it's not gonna like foster any sort of good editing?
Well, like one thing I've been, I'm looking for a new camera. Like we're filming on this one here, and this one's autofocus is kind of poor. The video quality is great, but the autofocus is frustrating enough where I'm probably gonna like sell that used one and or sell that one used and get a different one. But in my research into cameras, it's shocking how many. You just go down the rabbit hole of like every company. So every company makes a camera like this price range, and they all have like a glaring design flaw, like an engineering flaw, and it's like they all seem to be like a head slap moment. Like for example, this camera is really great, but the autofocus is like whatever. But that's not really like that's just like a limitation of the camera. But then if you get other cameras in the price range of the one that you're watching or listening to today, you'll have one that has like so if you're gonna do say you're gonna shoot something solo. So say you're walking around town, you're like recording yourself doing video like a vlog, or you're just say you're gonna go to the local park like I would and put your tripod down and like video yourself doing something.
Video
for
a
YouTube.
plastic bag.
Yeah, whatever. You want to be able to monitor yourself with a flip out screen. So flip out screens so you can see like where you are in the frame.
That makes sense.
And so all these companies they put out cameras in different ranges. That's like okay. This one doesn't have a flip out screen. Okay, so it's completely useless for doing that kind of stuff. Or it flips up, but then that's where the microphone goes if you're going to attach an external mic to have better audio. So then that one doesn't work. Then you have one that has the audio jack on the side, where then the flip out screen like can't pivot because the audio jack's right there. And then you have another one that just like has the screen pivot, but it only goes down, or it just like doesn't go around the side. And you're like, how did you have a room full of engineers? And you're like, well, we can make this screen pivot out any way we want. Let's have it do it this way, so it completely excludes this group of people who would use it in this manner. It's just like shocking. It's really strange. Like to find a. Like
I just imagine they're like on prototype like 15, and they're like, okay, guys, like it's fully functional. It does all these things, but when you plug in this jack, like you can't use. And they're just like, whatever, just we're done with it. Send it out.
Well, it's just really strange. Like I need a camera that has good autofocus, so Canon's the best. But it needs to have a flip out screen that goes to the side, so then I could put an external audio microphone on the top. That's really all I need, those three things.
Okay.
But Nikon does not make one that does that. Sony has like apparently like fantastic autofocus, great video quality. Their screen won't flip out. It'll flip up so you can look down at it, but it won't flip out to the side. They chose to just do that. Another company, I think it's Nikon, their like audio jack is like exactly in the way of the flip out screen or something like that. And then
that one seems the most egregious to me.
It's just like so stupid.
Like
it's crazy.
Making two pieces of your camera that can't be used simultaneously.
Yeah, and then there's like some older model Sonys that are really great that don't have a place to put your microphone mount on the top. It's it's crazy.
It reminds me of when you first got your laptop and what was the deal with like the Apple port, like you couldn't do two things simultaneously.
Yeah, so I bought the new MacBook a year and a half ago maybe or 2 years ago, and because I needed a new computer, and it had one USB-C port. That was the only port it had. And from that, you can stick a dongle, which is an annoying word. You can stick a dongle in it, and you can connect your power source and then 2 USB like A's. So USB A is the regular USB, the square one or the rectangle one. So then I got as a Christmas gift a second screen. So you have a second monitor, so you can be like a super nerd, have a monitor to your left, and then your computer monitor. But to do that, I couldn't possibly have the power going into the dongle connector thing, and then power going to the monitor, and then still have my I want to connect a mouse, because I was doing a lot of things that required a mouse rather than a trackpad.
Which
and so the one port just like wouldn't work. But with Macs, they decided that no, all their computers are going to USB-C only, so they can like push the technology, to like push people to adopt it and more accessory makers to adopt it, which really hasn't happened in the subsequent years. But I had to sell that computer. I sold it to my dad, which it's perfect for him because he doesn't do any of that other stuff, so it works really well for his purposes. But
and this one has 2?
This one has 2, and this was like $400 more because I needed 1 extra port,
which
is frustrating. If I wanted a 3rd port or a 4th port, which would be great, it's like another $300 per port.
That's how they get you.
It's an obnoxious thing, and USB-C is not the standard yet. I think it's great. Like, I think it's definitely going to it because like the new iPad Pro is USB-C instead of the Lightning connector, and I love that I can charge my computer potentially from a power bank, which is great because it's not like it's just a typical USB. But besides that, it's just like, dude, like you guys made this computer and like you knew it was gonna like it requires like $100 worth of connectors, these stupid dongles.
They knew.
It's like you knew what you were doing. Just cut the USB-A ports in there. It's just obnoxious. Because that's not like, and for them aesthetically, like this computer's thin. It's so pretty. So pretty. And then I have to connect this stupid thing to it.
Yeah.
Like, how does that part of your
obnoxious?
Yeah, that's like you make this beautiful house, and then you have like the air conditioner in the front yard or something.
Yeah, or like the shed on the side is like a dilapidated.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Anyway. So, yep, technology is strange and frustrating. And I don't know how we got on that topic.
I was just thinking that same thing. I was like, I don't know how we ended up on Max. We were talking about volleyball, but here we are.
It was something about how things are engineered. McLean, how did we get on that topic? This is your role in this podcast.
You're supposed to map out our train of thought.
Yeah, you're supposed to be giving us hand signals right now.
Right.
But we were talking about obviously just the limitations of training a large group because it is tough. And again,
oh yes.
Not necessarily. I was picking on that program because they chose to put a video out of high-level Division I athletes doing pretty much every exercise they filmed with poor form, which, again, it comes down to either the coach doesn't know or the coach isn't coaching. That's
a good point. Like, neither of us would go out of our way to, like, be like, oh, you suck at your jobs, like, blah, blah. But if you're going to put a video out there,
it's a little strange. Because, there's always context, and that's one of the things Gary Vaynerchuk, who's a guy I like on the internet, he always talks about how the haters, they just like they always lack context. They always want to like and I had a baseball coach with that recently. Like I put a video, and I told you about this. I put a video of one of our high school pitchers on there on my Instagram, which posted to Facebook, and it was just a little post about how his velocity had kind of dropped, and we just started like getting it back. And it was a little post about like the frustration and like the mental / emotional side that comes with that when you're like an athlete. It's like, say you're a volleyball player and you get hurt and you come back and you're just like not the same yet. Like you're not hitting the ball as hard, you're not jumping as high. You're just like, when's this going to come back? Like you just don't know, and it can be tough to figure out. Probably less so with a sport like that than it is like baseball, where it's like a complex motion, right? Your velocity is just kind of can waver sometimes. And I posted that it was clearly not like, it was like a good for him. Like I'm proud of him. He's worked hard. He's gotten through this. He's doing a good job. We're starting to get through it. It's been tough on him. That was like what the point of the post was. And this coach was like, I do my evaluations this way, and it seems like you clearly missed this, and this. It's like, dude, that wasn't like, what's wrong with you? Like, did you need to tell me that you're a better coach than me? Like right now, you completely missed the context, which on this case was obvious,
right?
But in lots of other times, it's not obvious, and people jump out of their way to like criticize.
Well, yeah, it was almost the context was the entire point of that post. Whereas sometimes it's
Yeah.
like you just like a thing gets thrown out. It's like, look at this guy throwing 92 or whatever. But that was like a specific post about, you know,
It was pretty clear, I thought,
Yeah.
like what the gist was, and we've had people attack, like
no, there are no,
No one's
people have
safe.
no qualms with
no one's safe. Remember someone called one of our
the 10-year-old sucks.
Well, that happened. We had a 12-year-old who was called a scrub kid. Remember that on
Yep.
my Instagram?
Yep.
He was doing his front squats for the first day ever in his life, and he was doing a pretty decent
Pretty
job.
good job.
And just like wasn't perfect, but that wasn't okay with the internet, and they criticized him. Some like 40-year-old dad called him a scrub kid, which is crazy.
We had that recently. Where
That dad had kids of his own.
I had a dad text me the other day. He was like, "Hey, like whenever you get a chance, like hop on my Facebook and like look at this video of my kid doing RDLs." And he's like, "Let me know if like what he needs to change." There's a kid who lifted with us for a long time, and let me know like what he needs to change because like someone commented on it. And I was like, "Okay." So I get on Facebook and I look at this kid doing RDLs, and they're literally almost as good as you can do an RDL. Like, I mean, just like neutral spine, butt going backwards, like loading his hamstrings, like almost zero movement out of his back with 185 pounds. And I was like, oh man, I don't even think I would say anything to this. So I like look at the comment and I can't even remember what it was now. It was like, needs to go deeper, like poor back position, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what? And so I like hop on I'm like, is this guy a strength coach? So I like hop on his profile, just some random old guy. And I was like, what is happening? Like clearly that person like went out of their way to like make something up because we've been doing this for a long time. I would have not made a critique to that like kid's form. It's just like mind blowing. Like why do they feel the need to say something?
It's crazy. And the other thing about exercise technique is like it doesn't like who says who defines what perfect is.
That's the other thing.
It's like you talk about you watch Olympic lifters, which they're if you're gonna spend time researching squatting or anything, like you should look at the best people in the world. And if you look at Olympic lifters, like you watch the way they squat, their knees come in a little bit.
Well,
there's just lots of movement sometimes.
That was the other thing I was
they're
going to say
excellent at it.
is let's say you were able to define a perfect RDL, and let's say you're doing it at 135 pounds. Are you going to do it at 185? Are you going to do it 225, 275, 315? Like you're not going to be able to maintain perfect form with a 405 pound RDL. Like it's like, but you're still strong as hell, and good things are happening. And like yeah, exactly. You watch an Olympic lifter at the bottom of like a snatch, and their knees are like super bowy, and it's like, who cares if they're strong enough to do it? Like, well, I mean, not who cares, but your point is valid. That it's like, screw you, dude.
Well, it's just like perfect form. It's just like there's a thing like you would coach like these 6 things, and then it's like plus or minus. There's like a sliding scale. Where for us, it's more like, are they going to hurt themselves?
Yeah.
Like, was that kid going to hurt himself?
No.
No. Like he was doing it well. I assume. I
Yeah.
didn't see the video, but and that's just it's just so weird.
Yeah.
And so in a group, that gets amplified. That's our bigger point. Like in a group, it's much harder to say, like you're
Hurting cats.
Well, and it's a sliding scale. If you're personal training with someone and they're receptive, you can give them a new thing to like work on each set. Like, hey, but you still don't want to like be in their ear constantly and be annoying. Like you want to give them like one little thing to fix this set, and then you just like can't fix everyone in every set. That's not how anything works. Any kind of movement works. You give them one thing, let them do it. Next set, hey, okay, that was a little better. Now let's think about this. Let them do it. And just kind of keep them going that way, and then they don't hate you, and they don't think they're failing.
Right. And then you do that long enough, and then they get
good at it.
good enough, and then you do your video.
Yeah. But when you're in a big group, the standard goes down a little bit about what good form looks like because you can't possibly be with everyone as much to coach them. And so then you're picking exercises that are easier to do, number one, and safer.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is you're also programming to a certain degree with the lowest common denominator because you can't like write a program for like the top 90th percentile of your group. You probably can't even write it for the mean. You have to like write it for the lower percentile so that they don't get like left behind or are doing things that are unsafe. And then it's kind of like the ones that are at the top of your best lifters, your most competent, your strongest lifters just have to like do more weight or do more reps or whatever. But you just can't. You can't say, all right, we're all, our out of these 100 girls, these 10 can do it clean, so we're all going to clean. And then it's like, yikes. That's the other thing. It's like there are so many people are bad at cleans, but you see them in every college strength and conditioning program.
Yeah. And, again, it comes down to context because, everyone wants to jump to criticizing, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing cleans, or you shouldn't be doing this, or this person's form is bad. Well, it's like, well, what rep was it that day? Or like, you know, is this like a milestone? Or are they really just trying to push and like break a personal record? Is that like a little bit better? Is this like, you know,
Well, and the other thing
there's
is,
lots of different things before you jump in and start criticizing people. Like,
well, yeah, and the other thing is, like you said earlier, if it's okay, let's say you do want to clean, you do have to start cleaning at some point. So like, if it's your goal to okay, we want all these girls to be really good at cleans, you have to clean to get better at it. So it's like
Yeah.
there's at some point they're gonna be bad. You just have to be doing it with lower weight and not putting it on the internet probably,
yeah, keep it off the interwebs where the
where they'll yell at
the
you.
piranhas will come for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but group training is it's a different animal. It requires a lot of planning. It requires a lot of, like, your head's got to be very swivelly.
Yeah.
Just like looking around.
There's a lot of like, do that better. Stop doing that. like,
You're like a traffic cop.
Yeah.
Just sitting there dancing, do your
Yeah.
spin move.
like what's that guy's name from Reno 911? like the short shorts.
Lieutenant Dangle.
Yeah. Very Lieutenant Dangley.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I hope we got to work our schedules, but I'd like to be more involved than I was last year. I missed doing it last year. You and Connor did the majority of it, but
Yeah.
it's just a good energy there. They get to laugh a little more when we're around, which is good. I think when we're there, it's a balance of like getting it done, but having like a decent like amount of fun, and I don't know.
Right, which is I think important given that we're supposedly they're playing volleyball because they really really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Very few people like work out, or at least in general, out of a random sampling of people, very few people work out just because they love doing it. So you have to have a certain amount of levity to it to like get people to continue to do it without hating their lives.
What does levity mean?
Like
Lightness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
yes. Yeah.
It takes a lot. It takes a long time to get to know everyone. Obviously, like we try to learn.
I was just thinking about the other day. I was
first
like,
month is always rough because I'm like, hey, you.
yeah, no, you
I
told
don't
me.
remember your name.
Well, the worst is
I want to, but I'm failing.
the worst is you know by the time you leave the hour session, you're like, all right, I got 20 new names, and then you come back 2 weeks later, and you're like, boo, I don't remember any of you. But we'll get there. But the thing I was thinking about yesterday, I was like, oh man, I had so many names remembered last year that I'm not gonna. I have lost them all for sure.
There's so many hard ones. There's a lot of Casey's.
Well, that's the thing is there are a lot that are very
Maddies.
similar, but just sort of different. So there's like
Yeah.
a lot of Maddies, a lot of hard K starts.
Yeah. The names thing is tough because you don't get the repetition. So you go there once, and we go there twice a month. So then it's like 2 weeks go by, and then you go back, and you're like, I recognize
Right.
you. You're a person. You have a name.
Yeah, we got to do
It
more
escapes me. It
nicknames.
escapes me. But yeah.
More nicknames. You're like, hey, Snaggletooth. Not that, but
Yeah. Not too many people like being called Snaggletooth.
no, very few.
No one's going to have that
Very few.
nickname this year, but
Not
you
this
know.
year. Yeah, but that'll be good. And that program's super successful. So we just have to keep them on the court.
Yeah.
Keep their hips and butts really strong and their hamstrings really strong.
Yeah, and let's touch on that real quick. So if you're out there in volleyball podcast land, the general thing, so again, with our program with the whole group, because we get a parent emailed us about this recently and asked, like, hey, what do you guys do there? Like, my daughter's considering doing that program. Can you tell me a little bit about the lifting program that they do? And so I said, well, because of the large group, because of the constraints with the time and the exercise equipment, all that stuff, it's mostly preventative maintenance. So teaching them to squat, giving them more hamstring exercises, lateral hip exercises to prevent knee injuries, and a lot of rotator cuff exercises and core strength. So that's like the gist of it, because again, like you can only progress so far when you only have a certain amount of external resistance for lunges and squats and stuff like that, and the other thing that's really tough to program into a group without a lot of equipment is rowing. Rowing is an exercise
Very
that you
hard.
like kind of need. Like bands are not great for rowing because you can do band rows for like a month, and then after that you like stop being motivated to progress them because you're like, do I just keep stretching this band back until it's like the most stretched of all time? It's just like it's tough to keep track of resistance with bands. That's why they're not really our favorite.
Right.
For like full on strength exercises. For like rotator cuff and all that stuff, they're great, whatever, because you kind of stay in this similar little lane the whole time. Like you never get crazy strong with your rotator cuff. You should progress like anything else, but with like rowing, we tried to do band rows and all that stuff, and it was kind of a fail.
Yeah.
So really having a cable machine is kind of imperative for good like rowing
Yeah,
or
or
barbells
even
or
like a
dumbbells.
chin-up bar, where not very many girls are good at doing chin-ups, but at least you could do like some negatives or some partner
Something.
assist or something. But yeah, you take out chin-up bars, you take out cable, you take out barbell, then you're left with pretty much dumbbells. And like the one-arm dumbbell row is fine, but it's technically not. It's kind of a clunky lift.
Yeah, leaves a lot to be desired. So that's one that's tough to do in a big like open gym kind of environment. You can do lots of different pushing varieties and jumping and leg and core, but
Yeah,
the
'cause you-
back and the rowing exercises are tough.
You think of a push, you can push yourself off of anything. You can do a push-up, you could do. There's a million different push-up variations, but to be able to grab onto something and pull yourself up, like there's just not that many places to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like in terms of like just to go back really quick to the squatting stuff that we do. I mean, obviously with less than 60 pounds on a dumbbell, I think the value of the squats that we do more than anything is the mechanic of the squat. And so like teaching them where their knee is supposed to be, because if you go to any high school volleyball game and you watch them jump, you're going to see a ton of knock knees. So like knees going in, and that's like the worst thing ever for a strength coach. So just trying to teach them proper knee tracking to hopefully and get it to translate to their jump and get them stronger in their butts to hold their knees out. And then we do just a lot of quad and hamstring stuff, because those are the big shock absorbers to the knee. So when you're doing, I don't even know, I would love to go to a practice and just like click how many jumps they do, but I'm sure it's above 100, north of 100. So if you're doing that many, you're landing that many times, you just have to have really robust musculature to absorb the shock. And so that's
Say robust musculature 5 times fast.
No.
Do it right now.
Robust musculature, robust musculature, robust musculature, robust musculature, robust musculature.
Wow, that was good.
Thank you.
All right, I'll never.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so we do a lot of that. And then, yeah, that's like the one thing I wish we could do more of is rows. And that's like even in the weight room over at Heartland, that's hard to do, because you don't have. It would be great to have 10 pulley stations where you could do 10 cable rows, but you just can't.
Yeah.
And chin-ups aren't great, because like what fraction of the general public can do a chin-up? Like no one.
Yeah, especially female athletes. Just a longer part of their journey. You know, for most girls that we work with, probably a year later they can do their first chin-up.
Like
if they
like
start,
unassisted for sure.
Yeah, so it's a long road, but yeah.
I'm trying to think, and we used to do like some sprinting stuff in the past, which we've kind of been getting away from, which I'm fine with, because if you were watching the sprints the girls were doing at the end of a 3-hour practice, they're kind of gassed, and if you're not doing it at 100% intensity, it's kind of pointless. And so this is the time we're doing that and doing more like med ball stuff or some like more rotator cuff stuff. And this year I think I'd like to put in a little bit more mobility stuff to keep their hamstrings and hips a little. And quads a little less tight. I think all that stuff will be beneficial. But each year I think we've gotten just a little bit better at it, because it's just tough to get in there and crush it the first time through.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Volleyball.
Volleyball.
All right. This was Twinsies. See you next week.
Yeah.